safety.
Well, and you've heard me say this before, but all of our questions are just these are conversation starters. We will always follow rabbit trails,
Yeah.
if it's worthwhile, and broadly here we're talking compassionate ministries.
Today is Tuesday, November the 20th, 2012. My name is Matt TG.
I'm Heath Mullican.
And I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Techology Show, weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and
All
everything.
done. Sorry.
What?
One more time. Today is Tuesday, November the 20th, 2012. I'm Matthew TG.
I'm Heath Mullican.
And I'm Tony Casey. Welcome to the Techology Show, weekly podcast featuring technology, theology, and everything in between. This is episode 181.
Woohoo!
So a couple things here. First, welcome Heath back to the studio. Gone for the last 2 weeks.
Served my suspension for unsportsmanlike conduct, and I'm glad to be back.
Yeah. And then I was just sitting here thinking, for those who download the podcast, they will never know how the opening went today.
Yeah. If you weren't here with us live, you missed out. So be sure to watch the show live if you can, because it was a blast.
All right, well, let's quickly welcome our guest today. Our guest is Dr. Joanne Lyon. She's the General Superintendent of the Wesleyan Church and a member of many boards of directors, including the NAE Executive Committee, Evangelical Council for Financial Accountability, and the National Partnership for the Environment. She holds a master's degree in counseling and further graduate studies in historical theology. She holds 5 honorary doctorates. Dr. Lyon has been adjunct professor of church and society at both Indiana Wesleyan University and Asbury Theological Seminary. She's a board member of Kingswood University, Houghton College, Indiana Wesleyan University, Oklahoma Wesleyan University, and Southern Wesleyan University. She was the founder and CEO of World Hope International in Alexandria, Virginia, a faith-based relief and development organization alleviating suffering and injustice in 30 countries. Dr. Lyon and her husband Wayne, who's the pastor of United Family Wesleyan Church in Cicero, have 4 children and 6 or 7 grandchildren. Pending. We welcome you, Joanne, to the show this morning.
Thank you. I may get the word while I'm on the show that the 7th grandchild has arrived.
All right.
So I've been getting these texts all along, so we'll see.
We love to bring breaking news to
That's
the
right.
people.
That's right. It's breaking news. Absolutely.
That's right.
Absolutely.
So if you get a text here in the next half hour, you can just you can announce it live here on.
Can I announce it live? Okay, will do. I just made a little bet. I guess I shouldn't say that, but anyway, how much the child's going to weigh and what time it'll be born. So we'll see if I win.
Well, so what is your? I mean, what are you guessing?
I said she'd be 8 pounds and it would come at 2 o'clock. So so if I'm right, it won't happen during the show. But
all right. Well, we hope you're wrong. We hope it happens during the show.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we jump into the interview, let us say congratulations on being named one of Christianity Today's 50 Women You Should Know.
Well, thank you. I was honored. They wrote me and asked me for some names. And so I sent them some names of people, and they wrote back and said, well, you're one of them. So that's all I knew. I didn't know what else was going to take place. But then I was kind of stunned. I was out on the road someplace, and they wrote me, someone sent me a text from the headquarters here and said, the magazine just came, you're on the cover. Oh, my goodness, I didn't even know. And then I didn't read it, hadn't read the article until I opened it up, and I was really deeply moved what Leith Anderson had to say. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, also, we want to mention Dr. Shirley Mullins.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, another Wesleyan. For those that may not be familiar with her name, tell our listeners who she is and what she does.
Shirley Mullins is the president of Houghton College and also is on many boards and highly respected in the Christian higher education community as well as beyond. Actually, Shirley holds 2 earned PhDs.
Yeah, she.
One from the University of Minnesota and one from the University of Durham, I believe it is. And so that means she wrote 2 doctoral dissertations. No easy task.
Yeah, she is a scholar in the true sense of the word. So,
yeah.
Yeah, as Wesleyans, we congratulate you, and certainly you represent us well. So.
Mark Knoll wrote her paragraph, and Mark's a noted historian from Notre Dame, and I thought what he wrote was wonderful regarding her.
Yeah. All right. Well, as we begin our interview, I want to talk about an article you wrote for the November 2012 issue of The Revivalist. The title of it is "In His Image: The Face of Human Trafficking." In that article, you begin with a heartbreaking scene that unfolded before you in 1996, a trip to Cambodia. So take some time out and just talk about that a little bit.
Okay, I might just preface this with this was the subject matter that they wanted me to write about for The Revivalist. They asked me to write about human trafficking, so that's why I wrote about it. Of course, I have great passion about this as well.
Sure. And
interestingly enough, when you look at the issue of human trafficking and lay it alongside slavery, slavery was embedded in the formal economy. So that seems almost impossible that could ever be broken. Human trafficking is not embedded in the formal economy, it's embedded in the non-formal economy. Now, whether that's more difficult to break or not, I don't know, but I think it is something that we need to take a look at when we look at the overall elimination of human trafficking. But I first came face to face with this in 1996, which we had just started World Hope that January. In July, I was in Cambodia, and I had read a couple articles in the New York Times prior to my going there about this whole issue of human trafficking, or I don't even know if they called it that. It was these horrible stories that were in the Times at that time. So when I got to Cambodia, I asked Jim Lowe, who was then the missionary in Cambodia, if he knew anything about this. And he said, I don't know, but he said, I want you to come out and see something. I don't know what this is, but he said, I know that a few years ago there were only 3,000 children there, but today they tell me there are 15,000. Wow. So we went out and began to walk down that long, dusty road. There were 2 other women with me and Jim Lowe. And as we walked down that road, here were wooden structures side by side, very close, and white plastic chairs. And this was in the morning, about 10 o'clock in the morning. And there were children sitting on those white plastic chairs for sale. And that was my first experience to see this whole business of selling, particularly underage children, for sex.
Wow. In this article, Dr. Lyon, you say that women and children are the ones exploited the most by human trafficking. Talk a little bit about that and what your perspective on that is.
Yeah, well, the sex part of this is the largest part. Yeah. There's labor also, and which is a major part of human trafficking as well. But women and children are the largest majority that are exploited in this way, also in labor as well. However, boys are picked up on this, but not in as large amounts as women and children are. And then begging, I mean, when you look at trafficking, it's trafficking for labor, sex, begging, and body parts. You can't forget the body parts of this too, which is just a gruesome kind of piece that we have witnessed around the world.
I'm kind of just thinking here. Yesterday, as I was getting the show notes together, I began to go to YouTube, and I was just pulling up video after video of human trafficking, and I ran across one out of I think it was London, England, but it talked about human trafficking in Europe, but how kids are brought from in one case it was Africa. In another case, it was another European country where a young man was simply homeless. And some of these I mean, it wasn't like before yesterday I was unaware of human trafficking. It's not that at all. But I just learned different levels of this. And I think that, for some of our listeners, Joanne, they may not understand that you have developed countries where even in some cases, people of affluence who are bringing kids into the home, and they are slave labor.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I would run, when we were in Washington, D.C., I would run across this where people who are diplomats from other countries would bring in children, underage children, to come in and be laborers in the home, domestic workers with no pay. I mean, there were several things like this that happened. It's widespread. It's in very different areas. I well remember seeing a little boy that was in one of the homes that we worked with in Cambodia, and he had been picked up. He was a beggar. Yeah. He had been sold to be a beggar on the street, and then someone would stand by and then would take whatever money that they begged for. Well, they thought he wasn't making enough money, so they simply broke his leg, just picked him up and popped his leg, so that then he looked more pitiful and would make more money. I'll never forget this little boy because he had been picked up. Actually, the International Office of Migration had picked him up out of Thailand and brought him back to Cambodia. And now that he's grown, of course, this leg was never repaired, so he walks with a very large limp. But in that process, when he was first picked up, they placed him in jail. So he was in a prison with adults. Yeah. Because he's breaking the law in Thailand. So they first threw him in this prison, then someone got him out of there, and then brought him to where he was in a home and where he's going to school, etc. It's incredibly complicated.
Yeah, we saw this here, believe it or not, in Greenville, South Carolina, a few years ago, where there was a brothel illegal brothel that law enforcement came to. These were women from Europe.
Yes.
They had been enslaved, and yet what happened is they were the ones who were in jail as they were trying to find the ringleaders, and so the victims get victimized a second time.
Now that's against the law. because there is the Trafficking Victims Protection Act that was passed in 2000, and then it was reauthorized in 2004, and I believe it was reauthorized again in 2008.
Ah.
So that is against the law in this country to be able to do that. They are to be protected, and obviously they have no paperwork because all their papers are
Right.
taken away from them. So they should not have been placed in jail.
You know, one of the things you point out in the article that I found fascinating is that children can be sold several times, and you tell this story of a 13-year-old girl that was conveyed to you by the director of World Hope International Center there in Cambodia. Take some time out and just share that with our listeners.
Well, one of the things that we hear is that human trafficking will soon surpass, drug trafficking is still the largest amount of money brought in. But human trafficking will soon surpass drug trafficking because you can sell an ounce of cocaine only once, but you can sell a human being over and over and over. And so this story then brought this into perspective to me when one day our leader from Cambodia emailed me and said, well, we just brought in a 13-year-old girl to our center, and she has never been to school, illiterate, but she speaks 5 languages.
Yeah.
And then we found out why. She was from Vietnam, had been sold to a brothel in Cambodia. From there, she'd been sold at 5 years old, she was sold to a brothel in Cambodia. From Cambodia, she was then sold to a brothel in Thailand. From there, she was sold to a brothel in Malaysia. And from there, somehow, the International Office of Migration brought her back in to Cambodia. And so in that process, she, of course, knew Vietnamese, Cambodian, Thai, Malay, and had also learned Russian in the process.
Wow. Okay.
So there we had a 13-year-old girl who'd been sold that many times. I mean, talk about that, got that perspective in my mind then of an ounce of cocaine, but a human being over and over and over.
Yeah, you know, I know you have a question here, Heath, but just real quick, one of the things that I liked about your article, and just in the title of that article, it starts out in his image, and
Yeah.
we've come back to that so many times on this show when we get into issues of compassionate ministries reaching out to the marginalized, is that we as Christians have to keep that first and foremost. So when you tell the story of that young girl, I mean, this is a young girl who's made in the image of God. She
That's
bears,
exactly, Tony.
yeah. Oh, just,
And we forget that. And I feel as if in the church we easily forget that.
boy.
When we start classifying people in certain classes and in certain categories, they are in the image of God, and we cannot let that go. So it's something that stays with me a lot.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, your first trip to Cambodia was in 1996. You just returned there about 2 years ago. Tell us about your return trip and what you saw that was
I've
different.
been to Cambodia many, many times in between.
Right.
Frankly, I don't even know how many times. I've never kept track of the times I've been to Cambodia. But my last time there was 2 years ago, and I went out to that same area that we'd been in 1996. And what a change. I mean, amazing. Here, there were no more of these structures, all gone. And the most vile brothel in that area is now a church and a community center pastored by a
Wow.
Cambodian pastor.
Wow.
Now, and then he was so happy to take me next door to what he called the Lord's Gym. And he had all kinds of iron and pumping iron and all that kind of stuff, exercise stuff. And he began to tell me about how traffickers come in there. They found the Lord, and they're no longer doing trafficking. I mean, that's redemption in the
Yeah.
highest sense.
Yeah.
Now, you asked the question, how did that happen? Well, laws started being passed. This is about working in structural evil as well. We can take care of all the children coming out of the brothels, but if we don't begin to attack the structural evil, it won't change, and the systemic evil.
Yeah.
So this is what began to happen in the country, and they began to make the laws. They began to make prosecutions. They began to have judges who weren't being paid off, etc. And so prosecution, sentencing started happening. Now, most recent kind of thing that took place though, Satan does not quit, and we can't quit either. And so a recent law that was just passed in Cambodia was now children may, even if they're rescued from a brothel, they may not be taken to a shelter or a place where they can be rehabilitated unless they get permission from the parents.
Oh
Oh
my.
my goodness.
Okay, so here we go. But you know what? We don't stop. And we keep at this. I mean, this is a tough stuff. This is tough stuff. And when we start, and I just want to say these kinds of things, we talk about compassionate ministries. We also have to talk about what causes it. What is the system that keeps people in bondage? And so it's got to break that system. You know, I think back of John Wesley. Remember John Wesley and the Corn Laws?
Yeah.
Do you know about the Corn Laws? Okay. So the Corn Laws. So really he set up the whole farm management system for England. But anyway, but the reason for the Corn Laws was that gin was selling big and the price of gin was really high. Yeah. And so people then, which made the price of bread high. Now, Wesley could have said, oh, you churches, all of you go over and give bread to the poor, or attack the law and let the poor be able to now buy bread and take care of themselves.
Yeah.
Those are big things I think we have to constantly take a look at. And we'd rather just have churches take the bread over rather than attack the system of evil.
Yeah, and Wesley faced constant pressure. At his funeral, he died a hero. So all of London shut down, and it was a great and glorious day of remembrance for him and thanks to God. But when you look at his life, oh my word, the burden that he bore, and for as loved as he was by the time he died, he was just as much hated during his lifetime because, as you said, he tackled it at every level. Yeah. And I mean, Parliament knew who John Wesley was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right. And, you know, it's interesting, Catherine Booth, she saw where women were working in the match factories. And first of all, they were underpaid. They were poor women. They hardly made any money. But even the greater thing was that they had to deal with this phosphorus for the matches. And they themselves were turning yellow and all kinds of, and they were dying. And so she went straight to the source of it. And changed the laws regarding the match factories and the kind of goods that they used in that. So it's looking at the whole piece. Yep. One of the things working in human trafficking right now, there are a lot of people attacking the demand side and are looking at what are the demands and how do we get at the demand piece.
Yeah.
Dr. Lyon, this week, President Obama is actually in Cambodia. And what would you say to him, or what do you hope he sees in a situation like that? And what can our government do to maybe apply pressure to really just help free people from this evil of human trafficking around the world?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We need we need global laws, that international laws that take place, and some of that has taken place. Now that human trafficking has become recently one of his points of interest, and he's spoken a lot about it recently. And I hope that he has spoken about it while he is there, and particularly this recent law, because this hinders being able to help these children and help them to become free and deal with families as well. So I would hope that he would say something about it while he is there. I haven't kept track of what. I know that he's there for the Asia. I think ASEAN conference is going to be there. Asia Economic Center is going to be happening there. But I hope that he will address that in that process while he's there.
I know that Hillary Clinton has been very vocal on this issue of human trafficking for the Obama administration. She has done a masterful job with that. Also, I would say this. I mean, Joanne, to kind of so that our listeners understand where we're going with this, in terms of putting pressure on our local governments, I'd like to bring this just to our context here in South Carolina. So one of the things that we are seeking to do is our state representative, our district superintendent, myself, are trying to set up a time where we take him out to eat because we want to talk about immigration and concerns that we have about that. And especially with some of the laws in South Carolina, the laws here are so strict that if they were followed to the T, one can't even practice Christian compassion.
Right, exactly. You can't pick them up on the side of the road or anything. Yeah,
that's exactly right. And at that point, we're at a place here where when the law says one cannot practice Christian compassion, there's something wrong with the law. We need to be obedient to what God's calling us to do. And so So there's that, and what we want to do is meet with our local representative because we feel like we have a great representative here. We know that we're not of like mind on this issue, but we feel like there are just ways that we in the church can inform him on this particular issue. Also in our state, one of the things that drives me batty is that we've got these title loan stores. People come in and get a loan, a title loan for their car, quick cash loans. The interest rate on these things are astronomical. And I have been vocal in some settings here in our district to say, I would love it if we could get a representative that is constantly going to the State House so that after a while, that when lawmakers at our State House would say, oh, man, here come the Wesleyans again, And that's the way it was for Wesley. You got to know that there were times that Wesley, people at Parliament were saying, oh, man, here comes that little guy again. And, what is it this time? But that's a good thing.
It is, Tony, and it's exactly what we're called in. This is what real justice is about.
Yes.
This is when we're talking about justice. This is what it is, and it's about people, again, in the image of God. And standing up for those made in the image of God who are being oppressed in varieties of ways, and that's exactly where we're called. And it doesn't matter the political stripe, whether you're Republican, Democrat.
Yes.
It isn't about that. It's about the issue. It's about justice issues, and it's about where God has called us to be His voice and to be the moral compass for a society.
Yeah.
This is what it is.
Well, let's talk.
And it may fall on either line. I mean, it may fall on either political thing. This isn't about being political. This is about being people of God.
Right.
In a culture and a prophetic voice. This is a prophetic voice.
Yeah. It's not political ideology.
No.
So we've talked. We're kind of getting more broad here, which I wanted to do anyway. So as we look more broadly at compassionate ministries at large, what's your hope for the evangelical church?
Well, I believe that we are. I believe we're speaking to a variety of issues, and I think one of the things that happens in the church, the evangelical church, we worry that we're going to leave evangelism behind. We won't. I mean, our hearts are on fire for people to come to Jesus Christ, and as they are transformed, then this is caught and so that many more people. I mean, I have to go back to the early church, in Rome, where Rodney Stark brings this out so well from his book, The Triumph of Christianity. Have you read that?
Yeah, the rise of Christianity. I pump this book all the time.
Proclaimed it.
Well,
made
then
me
get
buy
the
it.
second one, The Triumph of Christianity.
Okay,
that's his newest one.
All right,
and it is great, and he talks about exactly what happened in Rome and how the Christians, there was no value system for mercy. The philosophers said that if you were merciful, you were weak. All of the characteristics of Jesus, they didn't know who Jesus was, but all the characteristics were of weakness.
Yeah.
And so people were told not to be merciful, not to love, not to care, etc. And as the Christians began to do this, it transformed, of course, as you know. So I still see that and if we aren't careful, a secular culture doesn't necessarily. A secular culture is selfish, is greedy, and is not compassionate. So this is where we need this voice again.
Yeah. Now, Jan, let me ask you this real quick here. If we run over with you a little bit here in this interview, are we going to be all right with your time schedule?
Oh, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Well, so I had heard about Rodney Stark's second book, so I want to grab it and I want to read it.
You'll love it.
Yeah, in that first book, The Rise of Christianity,
yeah.
He gets into issues of abortion and how it was the church who came along with this theology of the Imago Dei, the image of God, and that children aren't just refuse to put out
That's right.
And it was females who were victimized, often female babies, and no wonder that in the first 2-3 centuries of the church, women began to flock to the church because it was the one place where they were respected as human beings made in the image of God.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, his research is powerful stuff.
It really is. It really is. And I was just greatly encouraged. And then I thought it was fascinating when and I don't know if he said this in the Rise because I haven't seen the Rise. I just do the Triumph.
Yeah.
But when they did the death certificates, all the Christians lived longer than anyone else. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. And he also, and so I mean he's it sounds like he's grabbing some of the same themes and he's just expounding them more.
Expounding more.
Yeah. But you and they ought to pay us for pumping these Rodney Stark stuff.
I need to write him and tell him I've been pumping this all over, so I need to let him know that he needs to give me a little kickback here.
Dr. Lyon, one of the questions in our chat room this morning is that there's so many agencies and organizations and ministries fighting against the horror of human trafficking. Are there 2 or 3 that you would suggest to people as you've traveled and been around so many of these that would be legitimate and above board and really doing a lot of good in the fight?
That's a good question, Heath. I see a lot of things just popping up about this, and recently because it's popular, and everybody wants to, run over and do something, or even here in this country. And I want to say a couple of things. First of all, I really want to affirm the Wesleyan Church here in the United States. In 2008, through Wesleyan Women, but there were men and women at the training, we trained about 200 people here at headquarters in human trafficking, how to take care of victims, but also how to find it, what to look for, what you do. And that I might add, that training material was done through World Hope and a coalition that, when I was in D.C., we put together a coalition called FAST, Faith Alliance Against Slavery and Trafficking. Okay. And that alliance consisted of World Hope, the Salvation Army, World Relief, and a group out of the Assemblies of God. And so through that, we were able to get funding from Ravi Zacharias' group, and they helped us publish this material, and it's still available. And that material has now been published in 27 languages, and it's being used really literally all over the world. Also along that line was a 3-credit course on human trafficking to be used in higher education, and that's been used in a variety of places. So we trained those 200 people, and they were to be trainers to go back to their communities and do whatever they could do. Well, it's amazing to me, and as I sit here with you this morning, I still don't know the numbers. I would say we have at least 20 groups out in the Wesleyan Church in a variety of cities doing things, and they've done very well. They've gone out and have networked with law enforcement and other folks, and are working in human trafficking in those areas. The State Department says that here in the States alone there will be 250,000, possibly over 250,000 trafficked primarily young girls here in the States. That's huge. And we don't like to talk about that. Well, I mean, we have now several places where we have shelters. One district, in fact, gave a house I was there when they gave that house to this group in that particular, and I'm going to name the places because I want to keep some anonymous here. But we have another one that's near an Army base, and they just did a raid, and I had heard that immediately that particular shelter was used. In fact, it was kind of interesting. I was in D.C. a few weeks earlier and had lunch with some folks, and they were telling me about this story, and I said, I think that's a Wesleyan Church group. And they said, oh, well, it is, and they knew more about it than I did. So I'm really thrilled with how people are responding to that here in the States. And they're getting, as far as laws are concerned, they're connecting in, they're signing off on laws and that kind of thing. So just our informal network of the Wesleyan Church here. However, Andrea Summers is going to be working at networking everyone so we can bring everybody together, just encourage each other.
Sure.
Where we are, keep doing what you're doing, but encourage each other.
Yeah.
Then, of course, I must say, World Hope does great work. In fact, the work we do in Sierra Leone as well as in Cambodia, and then also doing training in other countries. We are doing some training in a Muslim country that I won't even name the name of it right now, but it's becoming very effective. So World Hope is doing some great work out there. And in fact, the State Department came to World Hope and said, we have some money and you do such great work. We want to fund your work, your safe house. We've done a lot of work changing laws and so forth in Sierra Leone, but now we want to fund a safe house in Sierra Leone. So that says how well World Hope is respected in this area.
Yeah.
The International Justice Mission is another group that is I highly respect, and they work at the justice issue. They work at the law. They have
Okay.
lawyers, and they work directly at the law. And World Hope and International Justice Mission has worked together in a lot of these kinds of places. So we've developed a really excellent partnership in a variety of ways. Free the Slaves is another one that is popular here in the United States, and they do good work. Those would be some of the main ones that I would. Polaris is another one. Polaris is not a faith-based group, but they do a lot of good work here in the United States, and they're almost in every state.
You at the beginning here, you talked about resources. The acronym was FAST. Is there a place that we can find those resources on the internet? Will we go to World Hope, or
We've got
it?
We've got them in the chat room, so
Okay.
we'll put them in the show notes.
Go ahead and say it here. Here it is.
Yeah,
No, I can do it too.
fastinternational.org is FAST website, and then there's also the Faith Alliance. Oh wait, that's the one I just said. Never
That's
mind.
it, Faith Alliance. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, Joanne, I think we're gonna leave it at that. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I had kind of an open-ended question here at the end of our interview, but you have filled it in beautifully. As always, we want to thank you just for the gift of your time, and thank you for what you do for our denomination. It's no secret that all three of us are Wesleyans, and we're proud of you as a leader. Yes. And just thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, may I say one more thing?
Sure.
Yes, ma'am.
We have a new mission vision statement, and you have seen it probably on the website, and it was just passed by the general board. And I'll just give you the vision, is transforming. Got to put my glasses on, and I should have it memorized by now.
Yeah.
And I will. Transforming lives, churches, and communities through the hope and holiness of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, very good.
And I think that says exactly what we've been talking about today, is the transformational power of Christ that not only transforms us personally, but it transforms literally our communities, our churches, our communities, and the world. And so I'm excited about that, and I believe that is God's call to the Wesleyan Church for the second decade of the 21st century.
It's a good word. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great to be with you all.
Hey,
I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
Good luck on the grandbaby, and have a safe trip to Washington.
Okay. Thank you.
Right.
Bye-bye.
Wow. Always a delight to have her on. She has so much energy.
Yeah. I feel like I can't keep up with
know.
her.
It's crazy because at General Conference this year, I found out her age, and I don't
think we should share it on air. Let's do the due respect of not saying.
Let me say this: she's in her 7th decade of life, and the energy she has, and
I can't keep up.
I like it. We had the question out of the chat room. Could you recommend any organization? And it's almost like she's apologetic. She could only think of 5 or 6, and then explains them in detail.
Yeah.
Wow.
One of the people in the chat room, we don't have Dr. Lyon online anymore, but somebody swears they saw a picture of you on her back wall.
That's a lie. Hey, let's talk a little bit of tech. So I'm going to really switch gears here. Yesterday, I had a district meeting, and afterwards I was riding with our district superintendent. He needed to stop at the Apple store, so I got to play.
Needed to stop.
Does anybody go to the Apple store more than
He
Buddy
ordered
and
an
Johnny?
iPhone 5. So I got to play with the iPhone 5. I was just really impressed with it. Loved it. And then I also played with the iPad mini, and gotta say, now I have an iPad, 3rd generation iPad, Retina display. Was really underwhelmed by the mini iPad. Now, if you're in an Apple ecosystem and you're wanting a small form factor, I get it and understand why you'd want it, and sure it would work great for you. But if not, I'm feeling really good about my gadget list, and one of my picks being the Nexus 7 tablet. I just was underwhelmed by the iPad
and rightly
mini.
so. I mean, the iPad Mini is a 2-year-old piece of hardware that that's just been shrunk down to 7 inches,
Yeah.
and it's discouraging. I mean, that was a very underwhelming part of things. What I haven't gotten to play with yet is the non-mini iPad that is the A6X processor. I haven't got a chance to get my hands on that, and would be interested to just kind of see how it compares. But it just bums me out because it makes me want that kit in in that device.
Which now, I want to remind everyone, last week on the show, we did some recommendations, some holiday recommendations. So we've got gadgets, we've got books, and so you can go to our website there and just see.
From the frugal spenders, we got stocking stuffer items I brought you the cheap things, Tony.
I haven't even added my, H3 to the list, and all the Nintendo Wii U and all that stuff. I'll be adding that too.
Steven Sheets last week when he was with us, it was like the ghost of Christmas past. His video was delayed, but you're able to understand, and what he gave us was just what he wanted for Christmas.
Yeah, pretty much.
His was the most expensive list, I think.
Now,
all right.
Go ahead.
No.
Well, we do want to announce that we do have a giveaway that's going to be going up later today.
That we announced 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, that's now going to be.
Well, explain why it didn't get up.
Well, there's a lot of things that have been going on. I killed our broadcast computer. Like, I completely murdered it. It ceased to function. If you're unaware,
what
you can't buy a Mac Pro that would run the software that we need to run in the way that we're running it from Apple without spending close to $12,000, I would estimate. And so we constructed our own quasi-legal machine, a Hackintosh, as it were, and quasi-legal. And in updating it to Mountain Lion, I managed to destroy it in the process. So I had to rebuild the thing. That took all my time, and by the time we got back, I had completely forgotten about it. And I told Tony that, and then we were like, well, we need to be sure that we get it this week then. And then we both forgot about it again, and it's been so far in the past, but it is going to happen. The giveaway will go up today after the show is done, and it's a great book. I don't want to. I'm sad that we handled it that way, that we forgot, because it's a great resource.
Yes, What They Didn't Teach You in Seminary by Dr. James Emery White, who was our guest several weeks ago. Great guest, great man, great pastor.
And then I want to point out another book that is on Amazon right now, and it's on sale. It's $3.03, and it'll be one of the best $3.03 you've ever spent. It's a book called Adopted for Life. One of the best books that I've ever had the opportunity to read. It really impacted me in a very real and surprising way. And for $3.03, you're not going to go too much better. So you go search that right now, or at the end of the show, go look at our show notes. The link to that book will also be there, and I would just highly encourage it. It's worth the 303 pennies.
The week that we had the machine all rebuilt and he's just changing things, trying to get things set up on the fly, was the week we had Dr. Todd Voss in the studio.
It was.
And he was such a good sport, because at one point all the monitor just goes out, and so, but the audio, Matthew kept the audio going so our listeners could hear, but they couldn't see anything. And Matthew's getting up on his chair, he's going everywhere.
Dr. Voss just powered through it. It was beautiful.
He just kept eye contact with me. Yeah. So he did a great job. But that whole week was just hectic. I mean,
it was down to the wire there, and then a loose wire that caused the whole thing to collapse during the show. It was crazy. You don't know what fun we go through to make
They
this
have told
happen
me
for you.
I'm not allowed to miss any more shows. Apparently, my absence is bad luck.
all right. Well, let's go to.
Wow, that was so quiet for everybody. There we go.
So is this quiet for us or quiet for them?
Yes.
For everybody?
Yes. Oh, well. Do you need to hear it again? Here
Go
we
ahead.
go.
Go ahead. I don't want to disappoint any of our listeners.
There you go. There you go.
All right. So our download of the week is Nokia Here.
Well, it was. It was until I saw that it was in the show notes. So Nokia has released a long-awaited, I guess you'd say, mapping application.
Wait, Nokia, they're still around?
Yes.
Oh, well, good.
I'm trying to demo it, and it's not working
It's
because
not
we have a
working.
terrible Wi-Fi set up here in this room, which you'd be surprised at that, seeing as we are the technology show.
Yeah.
But
I would have never.
let's see
admitted
here.
that.
Come on. Are you going to work? All right, it's not going to work, so I'm not going to be demoing it for you today. But, no. Yes, no.
No.
Yes, no. Anyways, it's everybody's been very underwhelmed, and rightfully so, with Apple Maps.
Yep.
I think they are getting better, and I think that they are certainly better than what Nokia has just offered to us. It's pretty miserable. And why don't you share your experience?
Yeah, I just used it to go to the store just before the show, and so by default it gives you walking directions, and so as I'm going down the road, it just couldn't keep up because, it finally said you're walking too fast. Okay. Then I realized, okay, it's for vehicle. I just wanted the turn-by-turn direction because it offers that, but it was not intuitive. I never got it to work on the way home, and so my initial experience with it wasn't good. And this is a big deal today. If you go to tech blogs, I mean,
Everybody's like, "Woo,
It's
Nokia
here,
Maps,"
it's
but
here.
it's just horrendous. I mean, it's really rough. So let me offer an alternative. This is available for iOS or Android. Now we say that with full realization that the Google Maps integration into Android is fantastic, and it may be everything that you ever wanted. But there is an alternative. If Apple Maps just isn't cutting it for you, the next recommendation I would have is a little application called Waze, W-A-Z-E. It will do turn-by-turn directions. I've used it before in navigating from South Carolina to my parents' home in North Carolina and just had it going the whole time. It also has some neat other things built into it. It's a German application, so
if you're going to Germany, this is really gonna be good for
no,
you.
but it's great here. Like I
Every
don't
good
know.
Wiener Schnitzel place in America is on there. Okay?
I don't even know what that means.
It's
I
fantastic.
just downloaded it, and we'll be using it to go to North Carolina later today.
It really, the mapping is great, and it's got this stuff built into it where, like, if you're in slow or heavy traffic, it'll automatically put that up so that other people will be notified of that. You can report accidents. So, like, when Ashley and I travel together, we always have it open, and when we come to something on the road, if there's, like, a car pulled off on the side of the road, you can report anything like that if you see a police officer or whatever. And so as I'm driving, she's updating all of that. And what's fun is it'll show you where the other people who are using the application are, and you'll see their little icons, and you pass by them, and Ashley can actually send them a message, be like, "Hey, have fun traveling as we're going by," or "Watch out
Now,
for
what
the
if I
police
was
officer."
traveling and I thought I saw a police officer that was registering the speed limit of cars?
You can report that. you can say there is a police with his radar gun out. And then the next person on Waze that comes back through there, like before you get to that point, it's going to go ding ding, police reported ahead, and it's like, okay, slow down. It's fantastic.
Our friend
little
Steve
application.
Stanley needs to be listening because he would like that feature on Waze.
Well, listen.
Yeah.
Do yourself a favor. So I've been quasi happy with Apple Maps. I think that they're getting better. Over the past bit that I've been using it, I do think that it's getting better. But if I'm on a serious long trip, I like Waze because it's got those extra little things like police officer detection that really make for a great application.
If this gets
Alrighty.
me pulled over, I'm gonna be.
You can give us a report.
Don't try to do those things though while you're driving. Okay, can I just say that? Like,
Yes, Heath.
don't
Can
go
you say
down the
that?
road trying to report police officers or anything like that. Like, I have Ashley do all that.
Do you
She's
give
my,
us your word that you will not?
Yeah, I won't be driving today.
Thank you. Okay.
What was that? What kind of answer? That was a political answer.
Well, yeah.
All right. Time for They Said It.
What is the deal with the volume today?
I'm going to say this again.
I've never taken steroids or HGH.
I took the initiative in creating the internet.
The Macintosh
Of all the machines I've ever seen, it is the only one that meets that standard.
I'm not a crook.
If you know what you're doing here, slide out.
We left the boxes in the village, closed, taped shut, no instruction, no human being. I thought, the kids will play with the boxes. Within 4 minutes, one kid not only opened the box, but found the on-off switch. He'd never even seen an on-off switch. He powered it up. Within 5 days, they were using 47 apps per child per day. Within 2 weeks, they were singing ABC songs in English in the village. And within 5 months, they had hacked Android. Some idiot in our organization or in the media lab had disabled the camera, and they figured out it had a camera, and they hacked Android. Nicholas Negroponte at MIT Technology Review's MTech conference, explaining what happened when box tablets were intentionally left in an Ethiopian village for kids to explore if they so desired. Source, device.com.
It always makes you feel good when you mess up. It takes the pressure off of me.
Yes.
When trust is gone and when there is a leak in the integrity and character of a person, the explosion is quick and even startling. What has taken a lifetime of hard work to build disintegrates swiftly with an act of immorality and an act of indiscretion. You sacrifice your integrity, lose your credibility, and forfeit the right to lead. Dr. Jack Graham, pastor of Prestonwood Baptist Church, in his article, How to Guard from Sexual Sin. Source, The Christian Post.
Christ Tabernacle Missionary Baptist Church in Jacksonville, Florida, has actually banned people under 18 from attending their Sunday morning services because if they did allow it, their minister, a convicted sex offender, would not be allowed to preach, since he would then be a sex offender in regular proximity to minors. Sheldon Cooper blogging about how children are banned from the morning worship service so Daryl Gilliard, a convicted child sex offender, can preach on Sunday mornings. Source, The Ramblings of Sheldon.
I don't think that having some guys taking their clothes off and hanging out 7 days a week at Castro and Market Street is really what San Francisco is about. I think it's a caricature of what San Francisco is about. Castro District Supervisor Scott Wiener, who has introduced a proposal that would make it illegal for a person over the age of 5 to, quote, expose his or her genitals, perineum, or anal region on any public street, sidewalk, street median, parklet, or plaza, close quote, or while using public transit. Source, NBC News.
Can I just say 4 of the most bizarre stories that we have ever had in the history of the show. The first one that I read, this is you've got to go to the show notes. This is an amazing article. They literally, illiterate children who could not read or write their own language find a box of tablets.
Like airdropped. They just dropped them there and left them
and
in their packages.
And they start working them. They learn how to, it's just
to the point where, did you catch it in the story? There was a camera on there that when they installed their custom ROM onto these tablets, I don't know exactly what tablet it was, but whatever, there was a camera there. They rooted the things and figured out how to get access to the camera.
Yeah. A lot of them, they were Motorola Zoom tablets with solar chargers running custom software.
Made by Samsung.
No, Motorola Zoom tablets made by Samsung?
In the article, Samsung had a hand in the manufacturing of them.
Okay.
But it is the kids, and there's pictures of kids.
You know what? Here's what I thought about this article. Steve Jobs said that tablet computers were intuitive. Now, the getting into getting that camera on, that to me that goes beyond intuitive. But in terms of them being able to just open these up and immediately start using them, it seems to ring true in terms of what Jobs, his vision of what the future of computing was going to be.
I feel like it's less of the tabletiness itself, but more of the touch. I think that the input of being able where you see something on a screen and you're not using a mouse.
No, you're right.
Let's take a moment here. What's happening? Where you're not using a mouse to control something on the screen, where you eliminate that out of the equation, where now there's nothing except a piece of glass between you and what you're seeing. I think that's the key. I really do. I think that's the breakthrough. You're not using a stylus. You're not using a mouse. You're not using a keyboard. You're using. And he had this quote about how, somebody's like, hey, why don't you have a stylus, or why don't styluses work really great with the iPad? He's like, oh, you got 10 styli on your person already.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's huge. That's really what it's about.
Yeah. Let's talk about this story of coming out of the blog, The Ramblings of Sheldon. Now, he will link you, if you go to this, he'll link you to the Florida Sentinel, which covered the story. But Sheldon actually took time to go back into this pastor's background.
Back to 2004.
He has multiple.
Yeah.
And so here's a church where the kids they can't be in the service, and they have set this up. 18 and younger cannot be in the sanctuary for him to preach. This just messed up.
His first arrest was in 87, and his most recent one was only 3 years ago. And yet this church is like, well, y'all don't have anything for young people. Well, we take a different view. I mean,
Well, to me, this is going to really sound harsh, but I'm just going to say it. It's stuff like this that gets out into the public media and makes the church look bad. Our inability to police ourselves. There's no way. You can talk grace. You can say whatever you want to here, but you have so structured the church that you don't have 18 and younger in the service. Yeah.
Well, I've come up with a solution that will solve this problem and make my life as a pastor a little bit easier, and it is the Skype pulpit. If I just put a monitor up on the pulpit, call in, I live right behind the church, but imagine, not even having to get fully prepared. Like, I could just get dressed, get ready for church.
From the waist up.
From the waist up, comb my hair, sit in my kitchen, and there we go. And then it totally removes the frustrations of interacting with people after.
Matthew T.G. and the Skype Pulpit Hour.
And that's why I'm glad to be a part of a denomination that has checks and balances. Now, granted,
this is an independent church.
We know of situations where people have slipped through the cracks, unfortunately, and kind of gotten away with things, but not a multiple offender.
Well known, well documented. Maybe I am the only one that didn't know this, but I had no idea that in San Francisco you had adult men that were running around naked all the time. Now, seriously. And so now there's this proposal before the city council, and it is causing quite a brouhaha. And the proposal is that you have to dress now.
Yeah. What's fantastic about this proposal is how stinking specific they've had to be.
Yeah.
That's what just fascinates me. As I heard you read this, it's like, okay, so you can't show this or this. Like, let's just be extra clear on what's going on. Yes. Yeah. Because,
was it here? Yeah.
What?
And the guy, if you read this article that we link you to, the NBC article, he is apologetic. Yeah. Almost apologetic that he feels like he has to do this.
Yeah. Was it here where we did a story a couple weeks ago about the kid who's less than 5, peed in his front yard, got a ticket, got a $2,000 ticket. The mom got.
No, we didn't cover that on this show here.
I'm just thinking.
It's probably one of the wild stories you sent me. You send me stories like this all the time.
The child's name wasn't Drake, was it?
If you don't know, that's the name of his son.
We didn't get a ticket, but he did. I'm going to get in trouble for this. Straight walked off the school bus one day, stopped by the tree, and I'm sitting like, what are you doing? Like, you can't do that.
See, no, I did not know that story before I made that joke, so that's great.
But if this kid or Drake had been in San Francisco, what he'd done would have been perfectly all right.
Oh, me. Yeah, it's crazy, and it's like why I was upset that the guy is being so apologetic about introducing this, and there are people who are acting like this is the greatest injustice. They are protesting, and so now more naked men are showing up to protest. They're coming naked to protest, and it's like, so I'm not going to take my child. Why don't I walk down the street with my children? I mean, let's just be honest. You probably have the majority those who live within the city who avoid that area because of that. And I think that's part of what the advisor is saying here, that this is a caricature. This doesn't represent our city, and we just need to stop this because this is what we're becoming known for.
This can't be good for business.
I agree with that.
I mean, if
from a commerce point of view, right? And
if,
he says
if
we're
the
becoming known for
Occupy
this.
protest affect business, well, this is like Occupy Naked. I mean, this is not.
All right, our other story here. We're not going to take time. Heath and I, we're going to just read. There's some bullets that go along with this story. Just going to recommend that you look this article up because it's way more detailed than we can get with it, anyways. But just 9 things that. On how to guard against sexual sin, good practical stuff. So take advantage of that. All right, I want to just remind you one more time about our book giveaway. And so how can they enter to get that book?
Yeah, you're going to go to our show, and there's a tab up there at the top that says giveaway. And that's how you do it. Or you can enter on Facebook. It'll be up there, too. I have a picture that I want us all to see.
Yes, this is great.
Before we end.
This is great.
So this was sent in to us by a friend of the show, Jeremy Gertis. And
look at there.
There he is. This is a pre-show picture of the Techology show getting ready to be watched on the big screen in the living room.
Wow.
So
wish I was there.
I know. That's beautiful.
Nice floors there, too.
Yeah, I agree. So send us things to make us feel happy about ourselves. You can do that to our email, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. He did that on Facebook, but there's all kinds of ways you can contact us. I suppose that's what's coming up next, isn't it? Or am I getting ahead of ourselves?
It is. Well, I'm also going to remind you that next week we have Phil Stevenson with us. He is the author of the book, The Ripple Church, Multiply Your Ministry by Parenting New Churches. He also does a lot with leadership. He has a website, and we'll talk about that next week, leadership training. He is big into churches daughtering or mothering other churches. He has done this himself, and so looking forward to having him with us. Heath, where can our listeners find you on the internet?
They go to heathmullican.com where I post randomly. They can follow me on Twitter. I am the only Heath Mullican in the world, so anything Heath Mullican, that's where you'll find me.
All right, Teach.
You can find me at my About Me page, which is linked if you go to MatthewTG.com. It'll take you everywhere.
All right, you can find me at Twitter at AKC64. And if you want to do further research on anything we discussed today, you can find all the links to the stories we covered at our website, thetechnologyshow.com. If you want to contact us, send your emails to thetechnologyshow@gmail.com, or better yet, why don't you call us at 3049 Theology. That's 304-986-5649. If you call us, leave a message there. We may even play those comments on the air. As always, thanks for joining us. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Adios.
I got nothing for you guys today.
Sing
Take it back. Take
Sing
it back.
something, Heath. Oh.
Yes.
Whoa, boy, that was quick there.
One day the guy on the buffalo hopped off to stretch his legs, walking the field. Hey, what's this in the weeds? It's a baby, awesome. He put it in a saddle, hopped on, humped it up a hill and across the plain. Tried to cross a river, not gonna happen, man. You're riding on a buffalo, member, but keep the baby afloat. Get your guy on the buffalo. Gotta find your friend. She's buried. Cheaper than adoption. Guy on a buffalo. You're welcome, lady. Gotta move it on my buffalo. Guy on a buffalo. One day the guy on the buffalo walked off to do some hunting. The buffalo said, no, don't do it, man, by yourself. Guy said, I got this. I don't need you, buffalo. It's just a deer. And normally the buffalo about the